That's the thing. It's like either you have a worldview of abundance, and especially in that conversation, right? The Lord's my shepherd, I shall not lack. So that changes everything. Or you have a worldview of scarcity. And that's how we operate. That's how I operated. It's like, I'm not enough. And so therefore I acquire and get. And that's why I'm driven. Because all the things that I get, whether it's wealth, it's status, significance, platform, real estate portfolio, whatever the thing is, that oftentimes is to signal my self-worth to the world, because I get all that external validation of, oh, I've got all these things, because that's what the world sees as valuable.
Okay, got Chris Evans in the studio today. You've got a pretty wild story. I've known of you for years. Back way before I started doing real estate, one of the first businesses I did on my own was e-commerce. And so bought a course from you guys. I couldn't even tell you what the course was, but it was something with traffic and funnels, all that stuff. So been following you loosely for the last close to a decade. And what
Well, thanks for having me, man. It's an honor. And you have such a cool setup here.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
It's fun to come and talk about the story and what God's done.
Yeah.
In this process.
We were just talking, and like it seems like there's so much that God has brought you through in the last couple of years, and I want to be able to get to that in the interview. But let's just backtrack, like back towards the beginning. Like, who were you before you started this entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. So I've always had a desire for God, and I've always been driven as a person. And so the origination of my story is that I was a missionary, my wife and I, in Europe. And so a lot of my drive was focused towards that. And we had an implosion while we were missionaries overseas. Our team just all kind of fell apart and came back disillusioned. I was like, dude, I was broke as a joke, right? Coming off the mission field. And I just didn't know what to do. So got into the real estate and mortgage industry, and that was around the financial crisis. It wasn't the best timing. And my friend had a garage door business about an hour and a half away. And I was like, man, you should open up down here in Charlotte area. And I was like, no, you should do it, and I'll just help you. I was like, okay, why not? You know, I didn't know anything about it. And so opened up a phone book ad, got a cell phone. And that was just kind of like me in a nutshell. Just, I'm just going to make it happen, going to do it, going to figure it out, driven. And so that got me into marketing and figuring out how to keep the phone ringing when the phone book dried up. And then I learned about online marketing and SEO and paid ads. And that just opened up a whole new world for me as well. Because coming from a family that didn't really have a lot of money, it seemed like it was kind of always in scarce supply. Yeah. Right. I was like, man, and being a missionary and going through a lot of things that I felt were just, I didn't know it at the time, but I was experiencing a lot of shame of not having what other people had. And so that drove me. The first place that drove me was in ministry. I'm going to prove myself by producing in this arena of ministry, being a missionary. Then that translated to business, then entrepreneurship. And so I started doing marketing things. I was in the trenches. I was running ads and writing webinars and building marketing infrastructure for like online gurus. So I was having a lot of success doing that for other people. And then I met my former business partner, and we were just two peas in a pod. Like, we were just dynamite together. Yeah. So we got connected in 2015 and started, I was working for clients and he was working for his own clients. And when we got together, man, we just took off like a rocket. It was nuts. And so then we just built multiple 7-8 figure businesses in a pretty short amount of time. So, but still walking around with, I'd say, an identity of lack and scarcity and insecurity. And so I thought all these things, if I could acquire and build, it would make up for that. And the story is it didn't. So yeah, it was pretty wild, but a lot of experience growing those businesses. I had 150 employees, 20,000 square feet of office space. We did big events, and it was nuts, man. Yeah, it was pretty wild. So at what point in that journey did you start to identify some of these cracks in your identity? Well, I think that in 2021 summer, I really felt pretty tired. So 21, we started full time January of 2016, the business. So we were running at a clip for that long. And I just felt tired and like, man, I had everything that I wanted. Like I was flying private. I had a mansion, had a lake house. We had real estate, whatever I wanted, dude, I pretty much could get. But I was still very dissatisfied and just felt empty and tired and like, what? Because the thing is, I thought that if I got to a level, then maybe I will be satisfied and I will have arrived. And I remember we would have conversations with my partner. I was like, dude, imagine if we could do 20 grand a month. It's like, whoa, man, that will be it. Like we'll arrive. And of course, this is a perspective of growing up in a lower middle class family. My dad was in the military.
Yeah.
And so our first month we did 6 figures. And I was like, oh my God, this is nuts. Like I'm rich, dude.
Yeah.
And that elation, satisfaction lasted for about 5 minutes and it just vanished. And then that same feeling was there. And so I was like, well, maybe it's $250 a month. We've got it. Then we hit that. And it's like, it just never stopped and just kept going faster and faster. And so that led to the place of getting to 2021, the summer, where multiple figure businesses, this whole thing, like we're known in the industry but just feeling empty and tired and exhausted and just feeling those fractures starting.
Yeah.
And then not soon after, man, just really intense burnout. Like I just started to hit the wall. Like I just couldn't go any faster. And I was such a driven person. So that led to my ultimate burnout where I just could barely function. Like my levels were really messed up and mentally and emotionally, I was just felt like I was being ripped apart. And then we got the letter.
What was the letter?
We could talk about that.
What was the letter?
The letter was from the FTC, which is the Federal Trade Commission. So we probably ran about $500,000 up to $1 million a month in ad spend. So we were spending a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of attention in the marketplace. So one of our businesses got on their radar and essentially we just weren't compliant. And so they sent a warning letter. And I remember getting that letter. I was just like, that business had already been having challenges and had a huge team and just all the expenses. I mean, just for us to keep the lights on was 7 figures a month.
Wow.
Yeah. So like I'm in this place, man, of I'm tired, I'm exhausted. I don't think I want this thing, but all my identity is tied into this. All my security, all the thing that people know of Chris Evans is this thing. And so I had such major conflict with it. And then we get this thing, it's like, okay, we got to shut off ads. And that's the way that we were driving the business growth.
Wow.
And then what happens, if we don't have new flow coming in, salespeople, like the whole thing, I'm just thinking internally, this is just going to crumble. And so I just started to feel completely ripped apart and I went to a tailspin. And we had challenges in our other consulting coaching businesses too, like just all these fractures, it seemed like at the same time. And I just didn't have the strength that I used to just figure it out. Because that's what it was. Like, oh, we just figured it out. It's probably no big deal. We're going to make it happen. We're entrepreneurs. Like we're driven. We have to beat our head against the wall. Like that's going to happen. So yeah, I was just at the end of myself. And I think that's where I found God. Yeah. So I've always loved God, but I think that I realized that I didn't trust God. And this was a huge realization, I guess in the spring of 2022, coming to the end of myself and just asking the questions, why am I chasing all this so hard? Like this is the way. And achieving and acquiring so much, but feeling so empty and feeling like I'm in a prison, feeling like I'm in a pit. So it really pushed me to a place to ask those really important questions and realizing that, oh, wait a minute. The things I say I believe, maybe I actually don't believe those things. And maybe that's the reason why I'm pushing. Because the Bible says that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Like that encapsulates really what Jesus has for us. And that's not the life that I lived. And so here I was at the end, burnt out, exhausted. I can't fix anything on my own as I could before because I was so self-reliant.
Yeah.
And those were my patterns. So it was just the start of the process of, I think, being set free from our idea of success in the West. which has definitely been a process.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you, because obviously you have to have some level of ambition as an entrepreneur, drive. How do you balance between those two of doing it in a way that's healthy? And it's because if you don't have a clear defined line of success or values, more is always going to be the answer. So how do you harness your drive and how do you reconcile those two?
That's the question, man. I think so much of it comes down to motivation. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Right? So much of why I was doing what I was doing is because of my internal lack. Like Chris Evans is not enough. And of course we're not enough, my perspective, outside of Jesus. That's the whole point of having Jesus, right? Am I okay to talk about that on the podcast?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna do it anyway. So, so yeah, that's the thing. It's like either you have a worldview of abundance, and especially in that conversation, right? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not lack. So that changes everything. Or you have a worldview of scarcity, and that's how we operate. That's how I operated. It's like I'm not enough, and so therefore I acquire and get. That's why I'm driven, because all the things that I get, whether it's wealth, it's status, significance, platform, real estate portfolio, whatever the thing is, that oftentimes is to signal my self-worth to the world, because I get all that external validation of, oh, I've got all these things, because that's what the world sees as valuable. But the way of Jesus is completely opposite of that.
Yeah.
Right? He gave everything away. And so it's just causing me to relook at why I do the things that I do. And the question that I'm asking now is, okay, if the Lord is my shepherd and I shall not want, and the command that he's given us is to love him with all our hearts, our minds, and our souls, what does that look like? And so I believe that he's created every one of us uniquely with our own unique gifts that nobody in the world has ever had or ever will have. It's like a unique imprint, right, that you have as a gift to give to the world. And that's how we can pour ourselves out to the Lord, and then to love our neighbors as ourselves. So this quest that I've been on is looking at myself and the gifts that God has given me, and for my life to be an offering, and to trust that he will give me everything that I need in that process, versus how do I go out and get the things that I want and I need, right?
Yeah.
And so that's just been a process that's very difficult, man. Being an entrepreneur and wrestling with those things of being driven or not, because what I find is, dude, I did not operate from rest. I operated from angst, from stress, anxiety, worry, fear. Those are anti-biblical places to be, at least constantly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I think those emotions should point us to our motivations and what we actually trust and believe in. Do I trust and believe in myself? Right? Or the mechanisms of this world? Or do I trust and believe in God and that he's good and that he'll take care of me? And that allows me to operate from a place of Sabbath rest and to pour my life out to the world for the good of my neighbor. So, yeah, not too many people really want to hear that, because there's not necessarily glory in that, you know? And it's a humble life, but I've never experienced more joy and peace and contentment now on the backside of suffering than when I had all the stuff, man. Like just the peace and the margin and the rest that I feel like I walk in is completely different, and I have way less. So I lost quite a bit in the process of this wilderness. Yeah.
What would you tell somebody who has started this entrepreneurial journey, and they feel like they're constantly chasing up? Like and they feel like they're just chasing that puck. That puck's always moving. What would you tell somebody in that situation?
I understand them. Yeah, I understand. And I think I would tell them that there's a better way. And that way is to find out who God has made you to be and why he's put you on this earth. And if you do that and you actually submit to that and you enjoy that process, I think that's where you'll also find sustainability, and you'll find blessing in that. It's like, it's not that I'm against wealth or all these things. It's just what we're actually prioritizing. And I think there's an invitation in that for people who are always chasing that. You'll never find what you're chasing in that thing.
Yeah,
ever.
So true.
Like, dude, I know a lot of really successful people, and I have conversations with them. And the things that you see on the YouTube or the whatever, those are not the same conversations. And these people are also lonely and feel isolated and scared and stressed and anxious.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever you're seeing, that is, that's the image that I want to become. Like, that is, I would say, is not the route to take, because those people don't have what you think they have.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the best gift that we can receive are the ones that are free. And you can have that stuff today, man, like the peace and the joy and the contentment. And when you're at that place where your life is so full, then you get to pour it out. And I think that's the invitation.
Yeah.
When it's like, oh, I just need to get more. I need to get the next thing. That is a place of lack. That is a place of scarcity. But when you can live at a place, whether you're in suffering or you've lost things, or, you can just be content with the thing that you have, you are the richest person in the world. Because the person who is always seeking enough, there's never enough, right? There's this crazy quote by Rockefeller. I think the reporter asked him, like, this guy, the time he was alive, right? He was the richest entrepreneur in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy rich. And this guy asked him, like, when will it be enough? He said, just a little bit more. Yikes, man.
Yeah. And if you see people at the top saying that, it's this endless cycle.
It's an endless cycle. It's a trap. Yeah. And it's no good, man. It's no good. And I think, someone's asked me, like, oh, Chris, like, we haven't achieved, or I haven't achieved what you've achieved. I say, that's okay. Just think about your life, where you're at, the things that you do have, like, you in comparison to the majority of the world, dude, like, you are far ahead and above those people. So just think about where you are. Are you satisfied, right? Do you have a level of joy and peace with those things? Because you're further ahead than they are. Like, you have a lot more, even if you just have a roof over your head, right?
Yeah.
So you still have experienced that thing of, lack of contentment. And if you can find contentment where you are now, that is the most beautiful place to be in life. And again, you will be richer than millionaires and billionaires if you get to that place. So, and just to go back to your other question, dude, about the drive, I think that when we get to the place where we identify who God has made us to be, the gifts that he's given us, and then I think there's the idea of good stewardship in those things. It's, okay, Lord, how do I cultivate these things that you've given me? Right. And I think that's where just the responsibility comes. So it's not the drive of I need to acquire because I don't have enough, but God, you've given me these things to cultivate, to put together, to image you as a co-creator, right?
Yeah.
Then that's the thing where maybe I'll plan this out and what this looks like. And so that's a process that I've gone through now. And I look at it from me, like the strengths that God's given me. One of the things I love is the Strengths Finder assessment. Because when I look back on my business and all the success, I see there's like key elements that happened that I did and how I worked. I was never really intentional with those things. So like for me, I'm a strategist. Learner is the top strengths for me. Intellection, ideation, like those are things I can do all day, just naturally. So I looked at those natural strengths, and now I try to orient my life around those in my work and how I can contribute that to other people. Yeah. And then God has just been blessing it and providing in that process. And it's been the most fulfilling, meaningful work that I think I've ever done.
What are some red flags or warning signs of where you may be striving and moving in that place of like ambition without it having purpose behind it? Is there any things that somebody could recognize quickly by, or maybe ask yourself or have some checks and balances whenever you're making decisions or pursuing something that it may be out of line with having some purpose behind it.
Well, I think if you ever feel driven beyond your limits, that's definitely a sign. It's a red flag. So for example, I used to work 7 days a week, always on.
Wow.
And I just pushed myself beyond my limits, right? That's physical, that's time, that's emotion, that's energy, like very little margin. If that's the case, then I think you really have to reassess what you're doing and why you're doing it. Because usually that will be an indicator that, this conversation of being a follower of Jesus, that I don't trust God to actually take care of me. And that's okay. The first step is to become aware of it and then ask God to help. And then I think other emotions that we might have, angst, stress, worry, are all emotions to point us to ourselves. Like, okay, what is going on here? Why am I having these emotions? And then to take that to the Lord.
Yeah.
Right? Because he says that you will keep him in perfect peace, whose imagination is fixed on you. Dude, I don't know about you, but I want to live in perfect peace. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want. And dude, I had millions of dollars and all the stuff, and I was not in perfect peace. I was barely in peace. It was usually just stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think those are good indicators to really help you to reassess where you're at, what you're doing. If you don't, have margin. If you're stressed, you're anxious, you're just at the place where I have to make it happen.
Yeah.
Right. Or I have very limited time. That's all scarcity. And it will quickly help you to identify what worldview you're operating out of.
Do you think there's a world where you can have both? Have all the success, the achievement, the stuff, and still have peace?
Yeah. But I think it's very difficult. That's why Jesus warned against it so much, because there's so much temptation to put our hope and trust in all those things and what it gives us to have those things. Now, if we were to flip it, it's like, to whom much is given, much is required. Right? That requires a lot of maturity and a healthy identity. And so I think if we have a heart to be very generous and not hold on to it, because really, truly, we don't own this stuff, right? We're just stewards of it. If we have that as our mindset, and then if we are proactively looking at, okay, how do we disperse this and how do we pour this out, then I think that's a different perspective than, oh, this is mine. I need to get as much as I can, so I feel safe and I'm secure, and I have everything. Like, obviously there is wisdom, right, to some portion of that, but I think it has gotten so perverted. And then it's very easy for us to put our trust in how much is in our bank account. Yeah. And I still wrestle with that, dude. Like, I have a lawsuit and I'm like, okay, I got to pay these attorneys. And I'm seeing, that account go straight down, writing these big checks. But ultimately it's a test to see, okay, do I trust myself? Do I trust in the number in that account? Or do I trust in the creator of the universe who said he'll take care of me? So
it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's the rubber meets the road in those situations, So to come to the place of realizing, man, I said so long that I trusted God, but wasn't actually the case, because, we're going to act out what we believe, right? So whether it's our action or our reaction, always is going to usually points back to our actual belief system.
Yeah. It's really funny, like how you see stuff on social media, you see the gurus, you see the influencers, all that stuff. And there's these outward, tangible signs of success. And you think that chasing all of those, more properties, cars, houses, whatever it is, but all that just stuff creates this giant vacuum behind it that you constantly have to keep filling. It's like this, you get on this treadmill, and the faster that you're running, like you have to keep running fast. And at a certain point, it's just unsustainable. And it sounds like you were on that treadmill for a while. Yeah. When you hit that realization, what have been some of the most helpful things getting through it? Were you in counseling? Was it just the word? Did you have a pastor or mentor that you were working with? Who were some of like your core people?
Bro, I had like a Rolodex of therapists. You got Monday, Tuesday therapist. Oh, this guy has a lot of issues. We got to help him out, man. Get the squad. Yeah, I think it's really important. So it's really, for me, it was hitting the wall and coming to the end of myself to realize that no matter how much acquisition there was, it still wouldn't satisfy. It would never give me ultimate security, and it could all be taken away like that. Like that's the reality, man. Right? So whether we think we own it or not, we don't. So I think it was really important for me to admit, like, yeah, there's some things I need to pay attention to here and actually look at what I actually believe and to really start a process of confession. And I remember when I first started, because I'd never had therapy before. Like that was frowned upon, in the circles I grew up in.
Yeah.
Like, oh, dude, that guy's got a therapist.
Weak.
Watch out for that dude, man. But I remember, and this person wasn't even a believer, but just confessing these things, not necessarily sin, but just externalizing these things that were internal. Like I started to feel lighter. And it was a process of learning how I actually felt, because my whole thing is I needed to suppress my emotions so that I would feel safe. And so I was disconnected with Chris. And so that's how it was very easy for me just to drive past my limits and run over people as well in the process. And so there was a time I was definitely a bad leader. So I think recognizing that there's things that I need to work on to realize it's okay and it's right to confess those and admit them and get them out and process it with people was a very healthy thing that I did, and I still do. Now it's a practice. And I think that's why we have each other.
Yeah.
Right. So I think find someone who is safe that you can have those conversations with and be okay to ask the hard questions. Like all the things that I built my life on, I was now questioning. And that was very difficult. The things that I had assurance in as an entrepreneur, as a marketer, all the things, man, like being at the end of that of just like, I don't know if, and I still have questions because I was considered, one of the top marketers, and I have a lot of like challenges and wrestles that I'm still working through in that. And I think that's healthy and it's good. And to have people that you can do that with in a safe way that's been really valuable for me.
Did you have anybody during those years that was seeing signs like, hey man, I see you going down this path? Was there any warning signs or anything like that? Or did it just hit you like a brick wall?
Yeah. I mean, my wife thought I was becoming a jerk. So she was like, man, I'm glad this happened because you're becoming a real, what?
Wow.
Yeah. Because I mean, especially when you get to that place when you're flying private and everybody's just, their whole life is oriented around your life. Like that kind of thing is just like, it's gross. You know what I mean? And so she saw that and it made her really uncomfortable.
Really?
And like how people, sorry, dude, I keep moving this.
You're good.
How people just attended to us. And, there's just an air about us. And so, yeah, but outside of that, there wasn't many people that said, hey, dude, watch out. Like, maybe consider this. I wish I had that. I wish I had a Chris Evans of today to tell me back then. But I don't know if I would have listened. Because that's a hard thing, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like I had to go through such intense suffering and a breaking of identity. And that's a whole other thing, man. I think, suffering is such a vital, crucial process that I just ran from. Like I built my life around comfort, in an insulated room, essentially, a padded room, so to speak. But what I needed was suffering.
Wow. This is good stuff. I appreciate you sharing all this. It's pretty tough to walk through. But it sounds like you've got some things you're working on now with being able to help other people, entrepreneurs. What are some ways that you're building differently now?
Yeah, so I'm interested in helping people identify who they truly are, right? Because most of us just walk around with a mask, and that's the charade and the stuff that we, try to present. And so I try to see the person for who they are, who God's made them to be, and the value that they have to bring to the world. And so when I'm looking at consulting a business owner from a growth standpoint, that's like the first thing I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Why are they doing the things that they're doing? Because I assume usually that if we're any kind of alignment, that's there, that they want to help people and do what's right.
Yeah.
I think when you operate from your true identity and who God's made you to be, that's a place of longevity and success. I think true success and sustainability. So I kind of break down where someone wants to go with their business and all the elements of where they are, where they want to go, and help them strategize from those lenses. So it's, identity, vision, mission, purpose, and then strategy and tactics are at the end. That's like the business and all the other things. Like that stuff is changeable and fluid. And I had it upside down. So identity should always inform everything else. So if I can connect with someone's identity and see like, who are they? And then from there, the outflow, then I help people kind of build growth plans and strategy. And so, man, I might help a business with their marketing. I might help them with leadership. I'm diving deep into AI and all the crazy stuff happening there.
Yeah.
And I'm writing a lot about this. I've got a newsletter called the Good Steward Letter. I write once a week to entrepreneurs and talk a lot about these philosophies and all kinds of things on my mind.
Yeah.
Which is a crazy place to be.
It sounds like so much healthier way to build a business.
Yeah. It's free. It's freedom, dude. Like I don't have, it's weird actually, because it's still unfamiliar to me. And that I definitely had a presentation and I had a mask. I had a thing I had to manage an image. And so I think that's part of how I burnt out so intensely, because there's so much work that goes into that. Whether it's just like how I'm presenting my image or the things that I need to do to maintain that image.
Yeah.
Right? Like I have to maintain these successful businesses. What happens if those things go backwards? That's a lot of work, man. So to be at a place to operate from rest has just been life-changing, and it's a bit awkward because I have so much more margin and time to think and actually just have just this lightness and peace. And it's like, man, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
To not feel that crazy intense need to go out and produce and perform and all the stuff. So as much as I can, I'm trying to help other entrepreneurs enter into that place, because I think once you're in that place, you have so much margin. You're not trying to it's like, okay, seeing the needs and then how can I give? And that's how everything is orchestrated and built from that place. And I think that has, really can affect eternity, from that place.
Have you ever seen somebody do it well?
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there are, but I don't personally know anybody, because it's a very narrow road. And I'm not saying I'm anything special. I just got forced into it. Yeah. Cause I was the poster child of the drive and acquisition and inquisitiveness. But it is, I think as believers, like we don't really understand how formed we are by this system of Egypt, which is like it's like an enslavement to this system of empire building and success and hoarding. And there's a different invitation, and there's, the invitation is from rest and peace and joy and contentment, and to be fully present with your family and available for them. Yeah. And so this is the interesting thing. So all my business success has been very little as of, the last several years compared to what people knew me as. Mm-hmm. And so all the other areas of my life are up and to the right. Like the fruit in my family and my kids, like they all love Jesus and they're pursuing Jesus themselves. 13, 14, 15, 18, 21, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, it's been pretty profound.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I would not trade what's happened. And so now I find myself thanking God for the suffering and the wilderness and the brokenness because of the place that I've come into in my family, and even seeing just the fruit with friends and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been pretty awesome. And I think it's really important for people to understand if you're in a place where I think a lot of people have lost, of late. If you're at that place that it's not an opportunity to stay in shame, but it's an opportunity to find freedom through that process of suffering.
Yeah. I mean, thanks be to God to allow you to walk through that and not allow you to keep going off in that other direction where you become even more of a jerk,
Yes.
Like what's the fruit in all of that with your family, with your wife, all that stuff? Like if you just look at it in both of those lenses, like that could be a scary picture.
Yeah. I could be living by myself. You know what I mean? And I know so many people that's been the case, and they've lost their families, and there's been so many opportunities to change course, but they haven't. And so, you see the fruit of their lives. They might have money, but dude, they're broken, and I'd say they're lonely and hurting.
But they got a cool Lambo.
Yeah, dude, I was gonna
drive by themselves.
I was gonna buy a Rolls Royce, but I'm glad I didn't. Yeah, they are pretty cool cars, but yeah, man. So I thank God for the suffering, and it's so interesting. You look at the apostolic fathers and mothers. The guys who really kind of predated the monastic movement. They leaned into suffering. Like they lived their lives according to suffering.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think there's so much beauty in that if you allow it. It's very difficult, obviously. It is a death. But suffering builds endurance, and endurance builds character. Character builds hope.
Exactly.
Right. So, yeah. Oh, thank God. But and I'm going to be doing some podcasting stuff too. So this just thing about the Good Steward, man, it's that I'm so curious about. If you're not at that place where you're just so driven, the alternative in it, God has given you gifts of entrepreneurship and leadership and to really to be able to see multiplication, but it's how it's directed. And so that's what I'm interested in exploring those things, and to be at a place where I have my enough number, right, as an entrepreneur, and whatever God chooses to give me again, and then just pouring out the rest, and however I can for my family, the community, to represent Jesus well, and see tremendous impact. But I think it comes out of the broken places and the places of suffering. And I think that that's a place we might see our country in, not the too distant future.
Oh, no.
The reason why I say that, man, is because you look through the, biblical history, that's always been, suffering has always preceded some kind of breakthrough, right? And it's been the catalyst to either keep someone in a place of humility or to really position them in a place that they need to be positioned in the context of, being a believer. Mm-hmm. You look at Paul. This dude was afflicted tremendously, a brilliant dude. And, look at how God moved through his life. And I mean, the early church, like that was the case, right? And you have America, this amazing country that we put so much hope in the things that we have. And I just see even my journey, man, of like suffering being required. I was like,
yeah.
I don't want to go too deep in that, but
it brings up an interesting topic about the American church and the health, wealth, and happiness that we're all promised that if you give enough and you do all that, it's gonna go well for you, right?
Yeah.
But that's
Antichrist.
There's so many references in Scripture to, like, the good for a lot of disciples was to be martyred, and it's just the exact opposite of what Scripture tells us.
Yeah, I've thought through that quite a bit. I mean, it is, man. It's an alternate gospel. Yeah. So it's unfortunate, it's sad because people believe it, and it robs them of true joy. right? Because essentially it is the message of the world. Like, you get this thing and then you'll get this thing, right? You'll achieve this thing. But the invitation of Jesus is today, without all that stuff.
Yeah.
You can have the ultimate gift. And that is, of course, him. And through that is joy and peace and contentment, right? And that's the invitation, like right there, man, in the gospel. Not only can you endure suffering, but you can rejoice in suffering. What is that, dude? Like, and that's a level that I've experienced. Definitely not like Paul, because the dude was shipwrecked like 3 times. Like, dude, what kind of boats you getting, man? You know? But there's like my life that was, and I think the whole thing about the gospel, it's manipulated to position people to avoid suffering, where no, like, suffering is the path.
Yeah.
And it's like how God moves in your life in that process of suffering. So, and that's such like a nuanced conversation, but yeah, I think people who are spouting that are, they do not represent Jesus well.
I had a season in my life, because I was a missionary as well. We spent 2 years overseas. And then when we moved back here to the States, I was a janitor. That's the only job that I could get. And I felt like God owed me something. I was like, I was a firefighter before, started a business overseas, used it as a platform for missions, and then come back and it's like, you're a janitor, you know? And having my identity totally like stripped away of having some sort of attachment to whatever position or career that I held. And that was a painful year for me. But there was about a 6-month period where I was just like upset and miserable. But then it was, all right, I'm going to be the best janitor ever and do it for the glory of God. And that's been something that's carried me throughout my career, of not having some sort of attachment to wherever I'm at, you know? So I have not lost I have not gone through what you've gone through, but I was a janitor once.
Me too, dude. Yeah. I remember, and I had shame back then, because my dad had a janitorial business. And I remember cleaning toilets at the church and just felt ashamed. And unfortunately, I didn't realize that God was with me and that it was his provision. You know, now being older, I mean, I'm fairly old, in my 40s, 43. I see the beauty in that. And anyways, so yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I think that, it just goes to show anybody listening who might not be where they want to be. I say that if you allow him, God will be with you, no matter where you are, and that's the invitation, the goodness of God. Whether you're a janitor or you're, slinging burgers or Christian chicken at Chick-fil-A, whatever the thing is, do it with the utmost excellence, and invite God into your work, and he will show up. I mean, there's just times that I'm just writing and I tried to bring my awareness to God. There's nothing amazing about, the thing I'm doing necessarily, but I just invite God into it. Man, he comes.
Yeah.
And this is the God who loved us so much that he laid his life down for us. He didn't have to,
but he did.
He did. Yeah. And it's a pretty profound thing when you really think about it. This God who created the heavens and the earth became human and took on all of our stuff, so that we could be with him. And just to ponder that, it's a process I've gone through to let those thoughts now form me, versus whatever I see on social media or all that. And that's made a difference definitely in my mental health and emotional health.
Yeah.
Being able to direct my mind on those types of things. But so you can either take that consideration of this is a shameful thing or this is a gift of God. And how can I bring my best to this time and this day? Yeah.
So speaking of that, switching gears slightly, you mentioned AI. I'm curious how you're very well known for copywriting and the marketing work that you guys have done. How do you see AI helping, changing the industry? Like what are you seeing?
Yeah. I mean, it's My challenge with AI initially was that it didn't get the nuances. And again, the copy is a whole interesting conversation, I have challenges with because there's so much manipulation in it. And so, but I do think if you could have good leadership and represent well, it can be very effective and a good tool.
Yeah.
So having that as the context of this conversation, if you can understand someone to lead them well without manipulating them, I think that's beneficial, especially if you have something good to offer them. So all that to say, I think AI is becoming really smart in understanding the nuances of the person that you're speaking to then therefore create really powerful and effective copy. And so I'm seeing that and I'm a little bit scared of it. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
The nuances, so part of our process and research, we did very deep research and we would interview dozens of people and just get their whole life story and ask them about the problems and challenges and pains and what they wanted to achieve. And that kind of helped to really inform and create very effective sales copy. So now I'm running a lot of those processes with AI that used to take a team and weeks. Like I'm running those things with AI and I'm seeing the results of the research. I'm just like, oh my gosh, dude, this is awesome. But I'm also kind of terrified.
Yeah.
That, it has this understanding, can convey it. And then that's the premise of developing really good copy is really good research.
Yeah.
Without really good research, it doesn't matter. Like you ask any of the best copywriters in the world. So that's the part I'm figuring out and it's really effective. And so therefore the copy, because the thing that AI is also really good at is frameworks. And effective copy usually is some form of framework. Mm-hmm. So, and just the speed of it, man. And like I'm in all kinds of rabbit holes with AI, and that's one of them. So, but it's like you have this superpower, that you can do good with, you can do evil with. And that's part of my tension with it is it's very easy for people to do evil with or not good with.
Yeah. When you mean evil, meaning like being lazy or using it for evil purposes, like
yeah, just darkness and just gross manipulation. And I think if you use copy to beat someone's identity down or to really push a scarcity narrative that's not true, I have a problem with that. That's what I used to teach, right? So
wow.
Yeah. But I can't promote or endorse that anymore, what I've gone through. And so, the thought I have is better a little with righteousness than a lot with wickedness. So I'd rather err on the side of, okay, this is good. And I'm not spouting some fake scarcity nonsense or whatever, or just trying to manipulate someone's broken identity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'd rather err on that and really communicate well about their problems and present solutions. Like I'm fine with that. And then it might be less, but it'll be a righteous amount. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's where I stand with it. But I'm really excited about AI, but I'm also really terrified with AI.
Do you see anybody relieving their creative ability and just like leaning so heavy onto it? Do you see any issue with that?
No. No, I don't necessarily see AI really replacing us. I guess to some degree it will, especially like the very low skill type task. Like that should be replaced. But the best situation is AI is augmenting. So for me, building that huge business with all the expenses and everything, I never want to do that again. I want a very agile business. And so what I'm working on right now is really building a business that's built off agentic. So you've got essentially manual AI. It's like I plug in ChatGPT and tell it to do X, Y, Z, or you have more automated, autonomous AI. And that's what I'm working on now. So I want like a CFO. And so we're building that right now. Tell me everything about my business, what are all the expenses, forecasts, working on that right now. AI assistant that can read my calendar, my emails, my tasks, report to me through Telegram. Like we're building that right now for me. So that's how I want to build my business and how I'm consulting.
Yeah.
And I'm starting an agency with a friend called scale.io, where we'll probably build this stuff in for businesses. And so, but I don't want to build a huge team, you know? So yeah, it's really fun and exciting. It's exciting too, because a lot of the AI innovators in the business space are young guys that have never been business owners. They're just nerds, you know? They got a lot of time. They're not married. They don't have kids. They just play on their computer all day. But being someone who's been a CEO and having the context of, you know, all the things that I've experienced, I'm like, oh man, I see all these use cases. So whether it's like writing copy, like I'm building landing pages with AI. Again, I had a huge team for all this stuff. If we're building crazy landing pages and we're starting to write apps with AI, it's pretty nuts.
Of the size of your team, how much of that could you have cut today by using AI?
Probably at least 50%.
That's wild.
Yeah, if not 70.
That's wild.
Yeah, because AI is becoming so sophisticated that the thing, you know, we had a huge sales team. We had a lot of setters and advisors. And so that was a lot to manage and to keep moving. And AI is starting to replace a lot of those mechanics, right? Whether it's text message or email, you can have AI, even phone. That's like really high quality.
Yeah.
If it has your knowledge base and your frameworks, you know, can have a conversation and keep someone moving or send them different pieces of content. That's part of our sales process. So the more we can get someone to spend time with us or money with us, the more they trust us and knew that we could help them. A lot of that was driven by our sales team and our marketing team, right? So, so much of that now you can do with AI. And so it's so fascinating, man. It's such a good time to build business. But I do think that there are big concerns with it as well. And so to have awareness of that, I think it's important.
There's times where I use it for creating company policy things or job description, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm cheating. Like this is just too easy to plug it in and make some changes to it. I mean, I think it's amazing. I mean, if anybody who's starting in business now, there's so many amazing tools available to be able to do it without needing a massive team.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's interesting that you feel that way. I don't feel that way at all. So maybe we should talk about that. But yeah, it's
this thing just did a whole bunch of work for me that I feel like I should be doing.
Yeah,
but like it's cool. Like I don't feel bad about it, but there is that little bit of like,
so you have productivity guilt.
Oh no.
That was an identity conversation.
Oh no. It's coming back to me.
Yeah. No, so yeah, that's interesting. I completely get where you're coming from. But I think that you know, a way to look at that is how can you redirect that time, right? Because to grow a business, you need capacity. And so that's how I look at AI. It gives you the capacity that would have been so much more expensive or whatever before, right? Now it's not.
Yeah.
So the thing is, okay, if I want to grow the business, well, I need capacity. So that's the first thing I identify. Where do I need capacity? And then once I have that capacity, how do I redirect? Where do I put that energy? That might be your kids. That might be your family, or that might be a new project or whatever. So that's what I like about it. And also, man, it's so cool because it's really great at building knowledge bases. I'm doing I'll tell you off camera some of the things I'm doing with it, but
okay, nice.
Yeah, we can't let you guys know about it there, but yeah, it's pretty amazing. But I think it's going to create problems in that it's becoming so efficient at things that I see where people will start and they won't complete projects because there's almost like this thing, like we're seeing this with some of the apps we're developing. There's so many potential use cases and it's so fast that you can start a project and maybe not take it to completion. Like, yeah, it's going to be really interesting. But the people who have their strengths, it's just going to amplify that. So lean into who you are and what you're good at and just having AI augment that. It's going to amplify those strengths in a good way, I think.
They released, maybe it was like a month or so ago, it's like the assistant version. I don't know which ChatGPT one it is.
Yeah.
But it basically does web tasks for you. And I was like, this is awesome. This is so cool. So I signed up for like the plus package, and I used it to like order a sandwich. It was like the most pathetic thing. It has all these use cases. It was like, order a sandwich at Little Poppy's for me.
Did it work?
It worked. It got all the way to the point where it was like asking me credit card information. And it's like, do you want me to pull this from your thing? And I was like, yeah, this is wild.
Yeah.
This is wild.
It's crazy. Yeah. That's the thing. It's going to get so entwined in our lives that it's going to feel very difficult to not have it. And then where are we with that? Right. That's going to be a bit scary. I mean, go back and watch iRobot, and
that's all I think about.
Eagle Eye, with Shia LaBeouf or whatever his name is. At
what point does Chat GPT just create its own life form outside of itself and start taking over?
Yeah. Pretty soon.
Oof.
Pretty soon.
You mentioned some potential concerns of like upcoming, like in the market, in our previous conversation. What are you seeing?
Well, obviously there's a lot happening with the polarization of Mr. Trump, President Trump, and just the war with these other nations, the tariffs. I think that it's not wisdom to put our trust in Donald Trump. We should pray for him. I mean, I prefer that he's president versus the alternative. But I just don't think that he's our savior.
Yeah.
And I do think that everything is heading into a direction that's going to be very difficult. Like, we might have some years of prosperity. So I think we just need to put our hope and our trust in God, and as a community, make sure that we have wisdom. And if we're storing up grain, it's not just for ourselves. Yeah. That's what I'll say. Yeah. Because man, it's you have this convergence of the political things, right? But then this convergence of AI and just the acceleration of technology, and how there are no barriers anymore, especially to privacy. Like, you go into your ChatGPT and ask you, like, hey, what are my weaknesses? It's going to tell you.
What?
Oh yeah, go into your ChatGPT when we get off. Hey, where can I improve? It's going to tell you.
Oh no.
Yeah, or don't do it. Maybe you don't want to be, beat down today.
You have this complex. Yeah. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, usually it's pretty biased in your favor. It's like, oh, you're doing a good job, Chris. I love that idea.
I always tell it thank you.
Yeah, that's a weird thing too, right? Like, why do we say thank you to AI?
I don't know. Please. I just don't want it to come back and kill me someday. Like, this guy said thank you. He was polite.
That's an interesting subconscious thing. Yeah.
Oh, dang it. Again, another one.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I think there's just interesting convergence where we have all these things like on this path that it's just not good to put our hope and trust in a system or a government or a president. Put it in the Lord and listen to him and what he's saying, and to walk according to how he's instructed us. And I think we'll be fine. Right. Not only that, but I think our call as entrepreneurs and believers is so much so that we can look out for our neighbor and help our neighbor.
Yeah.
And have stores, stuff in the storehouse for them, so to speak. So I think that's really our call as entrepreneurs in this time. And it's I think probably so many Christian believers would disagree with me that it's really not biblical to just store up in barns for ourselves. So, I mean, what did Jesus say to the dude who had the fields with all the fruit, and the grain? The guy was like, "Oh man, I've got so much. I'm gonna build me some new barns and stuff." He said, "You fool." So, this is an interesting perspective, because that's usually, even as Christians, we try to get as much as we can, and just like, I'll just get as much as I can, just get it over here. Yeah. But that's not really the gospel. So, and I have conflict with that. I wrestle with that. because I want to put my hope in those things, like the stuff that's tangible that I can see and I can touch and I can have, at least think that I have control over.
Yeah.
Because that's all it is. It's self-reliance. It's thinking that we can control everything. But in my experience, you can't, and it's false. And that is a gospel that we believe in. That is our good news. Oftentimes, as believers, is that if I can get these things right, then I'll have safety and security and control. But it's just not the truth, and it's not freedom. That's for sure. So I don't know if your audience will want to hear that, but there it is.
I mean, they need to hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are things, man, I want to explore and talk about and give biblical perspective, because that does that. It's like the perversion of the prosperity gospel. All that stuff is kind of like just tied in together, and it's very worldly. It's. I mean, if it's not Jesus, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not representing Jesus, who is it representing? I think it's a distraction to the actual true gift that we have. And in that, there's definitely the role for us to be responsible and to work. And that's all very biblical.
Yeah.
But not to just hoard as much as we can. You feel like that's something you do?
What, hoard?
Yeah. You're a wealth builder.
I'm a wealth builder. I don't know if I'm a hoarder, though. How would I know?
Yeah.
Am I a hoarder? No. It's a really interesting thing to.
It is. I guess it's like, what's your enough number? Right? So at what number is the family taken care of? Like, we've got food, we're paying the bills, we're content, we're happy. And then what do you do with the rest of it?
Are you asking me what I do with the rest of it?
Yeah, well, yes. I don't have to answer that, but
I think here's something that I'm realizing. You go on this entrepreneurial journey because there's some spark, there's some interest, there's something that sets you off, or an individual that you're like, I want what they have, or they put language to the way that you think. And then you start accumulating stuff and you realize that's not enough. And so you get more. Maybe you set an initial target. I think for me, it was like, hey, I just want to cover my living expenses from rental properties, whatever it is. And then you go on this journey and you start bringing people in around you, and you start hiring people. You build a team. And then you realize kind of what you were talking about. And this is the stuff that I've realized is there's never enough.
Mm-hmm.
There's more is always going to be the answer, unless you have some sort of defined set goal, or unless you have peace in knowing like who Jesus is, and you don't have that greed of constantly chasing for more. So I feel like I've hit that point where I'm like I'm good. Like I could probably turn my business off and just like, I don't need to do this anymore. There's many times where there's really stressful days where I'm just like, this is the worst, or somebody sues me, or it's like, or a deal goes bad, or I lose money here, and it's like, I don't need to do this anymore. But there's also this calling that I feel like the Lord's given me, where it's like, these are the talents that I've been given, and I don't want to waste those by just sitting back and living this comfortable life. It's more about like, I've got a team, I got a group of people in here that I also have the opportunity to lead and to see them grow and be able to do that same thing for their family, So I don't know if that's healthy. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I've seen. Like I don't necessarily feel like I've got this desire to accumulate more and more and more stuff. I live pretty simply. Why do I feel like I'm defending myself?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good conversation to have, though. And I don't think there's necessarily like a right answer, but it's good to explore it, because if we don't have those conversations, then we can't really get to those uncomfortable truths, maybe things that we don't want to answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I think there does come a place, because for me, I was in such a state of survival, the insecurity and the fear. Like, that was the thing that motivated me to drive and push. I never got out of that because it became a freight train. And then there was so much maintenance of the image and keeping this stuff going. So there was never a shift of, okay, that there isn't enough number of I have a level of this contentment where I've got everything I need and so much more, like a tremendous abundance. And I experience that now. I don't make that much money compared to what I used to make. And so I've like got an overwhelming amount of gratitude for what I have. And so now I feel, even with the little that I have, like, man, I can really pour out. So there has to come a conversation as an entrepreneur thing. It's how do we redirect, and what's that vision transference look like where I've got this abundance that God's blessed me with to hold and to even risk, right? Like that's the parable of the talents. I gave you these talents to then go out and make something with it. So that's the part of the conversation I think that we don't have as believers who are entrepreneurs. How do I do that for other people that give glory to the Lord? You know, that's the thing of I love God with all my heart, mind, soul. That's the entrepreneurship. That's the development, sharpening those things, the gifts that He's given me, cultivating the team and the things and the vision, whatever. And then to love my neighbor as myself and looking locally first, I think. How do we redirect and how do we pour this into the community and, you know, whatever that looks like with the things that God has given us. And that's what it is. It's like what God has given us financially, time, margin, talents, abilities, skills, team, all that stuff, that conversation of redirecting that. And I think God will just continue to bless and bless and bless so that it can just be the overflow, right?
Yeah.
So that's the perspective now that I have of what this, I think, looks like, because I think also when you get to that place, there is this profound sense of I don't have to chase, because usually the chase comes from the scarcity, which I know you've experienced and I've lived in that place. And so if we can be the hands and feet of Jesus, not to be cliche, you know, like a 90s Christian song, was that Audio Adrenaline or something? Early 2000s. But yeah, if we could be that for our community, that's when I think we actually see the church not be something that takes, but really can give in so much abundance and, be a representation of Jesus people, you know, in our community and what the profound impact that'll have. So, yeah, man.
It's cool. If people want to keep up with you on your newsletter, how do they sign up for that?
chrisaevans.com/newsletter. Don't forget the A. You gotta do the A.
Who's Chris? Who is the Chris Evans?
I don't know. I've heard things. I've heard things. Yeah. I mean, I'm on social. I've Instagram. I post clips, and we're starting to put some YouTube stuff up soon.
Nice.
Just, you know, to externalize a lot of these lessons and philosophies, and as I'm creating my philosophy of life, and we'll help others with that as well.
Good deal. Awesome. Yeah. Well, this was fun.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I got a lot to think about.
Sorry.